relations with China, or even parts of India, even countries like Iran, forget Turkey, forget how Europe changed, forget how Japan changed. But even if you look at places which have made only modest progress, you find in our country a virtual absence of this transformative event. So where are we now in terms of society, and where do we want to go? There is no realistic cognizance of the problems, and there is no realistic discussion of where we want to go. So that's all I want to say right now.
Haris has introduced a very important issue here of social transformation as a prerequisite for economic change and for poverty reduction, if that is the ultimate objective. I think that should give us a lot of material for discussion. I'd now like to invite our other guest, Asif Saeed, to give us his
Thank you,
views.
Kaiser. In a distinguished panel like this, there is certainly a disadvantage to be the last speaker because most of the points are taken up already. But there are 2 or 3 things that I'd like to emphasize on. That first of all, we have to see what sort of infrastructure for poverty reduction that is there in this country. And my contention over here will be that the infrastructure, especially from the state, is one that has been geared towards poverty creation rather than poverty reduction. And that particular infrastructure has become further embedded and concretized rather than being dismantled. And that infrastructure would have both its social sides, its economic, and its political elements. Just to throw a few interesting numbers at you. Where does Pakistan stand? Some have been given already, but in terms of social development, it's quite remarkable. And these are numbers from 2001. It's a study by William Easterly, who's at the World Bank. Countries with similar levels of per capita income. So it's not countries that are richer than Pakistan in terms of their per capita GDP. If you compare those countries on certain social indicators, Pakistan has 11% more babies born with low birth weight, 27% more infant deaths per thousand, 19% more child deaths per thousand, 66% higher death rates among girls aged 1 to 4 than boys, 24% more illiterates, 32% more females and 16% more males, 20% lower gross enrollment ratios, 40% less for females, 0.6 more childbirths per woman, 21% lower contraceptive prevalence. Now this, I think, seconds some of the points that Haris has made about low levels of social transformation towards a modern society in this country. So it's not that economic resources alone have been the reason for low levels of social development. It is also this lack of social transformation which results in these sorts of outcomes in similarly placed countries. The other issue I think which has been raised by Jafri Saab is very important, and that is of defense, and it's an old perennial debate of guns and butter in this country. The poverty reduction strategy paper that has been launched with a lot of fanfare actually states itself that the social protection expenditure of the government of Pakistan And social protection is, there are two important elements to it. One is the zakat scheme, the other is Baitul Mal. This is something that I've been working on for some time. Then you have old age pension schemes, the EOBI scheme, etc., a few others, is 0.4% of GDP. And by the end of the 5-year period in which the PRSP was
there is social protection, allocation for social protection is 0.4%.
0.4%. It would go up to 0.6% of GDP in 5 years. The Planning Commission was making this medium-term framework, and I was on a committee on social protection. And I put forth a very simple proposition over there. I said that is human security considered at least as important in Pakistan as territorial security? Now once you say that in those terms, nobody can say no, it isn't. So I said, the person who was chairing this group said, yes, certainly it is. And most of the Planning Commission bureaucrats also agreed. I said then a reasonable proposition there would be that over a 5-year period we aim to increase allocations for social protection to reach that for territorial protection. So that's about 4% of GDP. Here you start with 0.4% of GDP. Let's bring them together. And the chair said, why are you getting me into trouble? Please don't even say this. And I cannot even minute this for this meeting. So now, I think that should illustrate in some ways as to how economic policy prioritization over here takes place. And in that situation, that's in some ways the underlying argument that I would present for my contention that you have an infrastructure for poverty creation. Other forms of issues, one could call them social or political or economic, have been raised by other panelists also. Regionalism. Not only the NFC is very important, and today we were told that the NFC will again be imposed, and there was something in the newspaper on that, and what they have done is to make the provinces fight with each other, whereas the federal government has very conveniently gotten out of it. Forgetting that in Pakistan this is a federal country, this is a federation. All resources belong to the federating units, and here is the center dominating it in the manner that it is. Similarly with the water accord. So these regional issues can actually be negotiated. You have the constitution to do it, provides the infrastructure to do it, but the entire spirit of that of federalism has been eroded by a unitarian institution which has to dominate in these matters, and these regional disparities are increasing. Some of the gender disparities that exist in the society, which I've mentioned already. We did a survey about 4 years ago, and on women workers in industry in the urban areas. And we did, and this survey was in the large-scale formal industry as well as the informal sweatshops as well as home-based work. And well, nothing too surprising. At that time, the minimum wage was 1,500 rupees. Now it is 3,000 rupees. 2/3 of the women working were earning less than 1,500 rupees. And 1/3 of the women in the formal sector, and these are these big multinational pharmaceutical companies, were earning less than that. 80% of women had no job security whatsoever, even in the formal sector. There are many other aspects to the